Good evening, all you wonderful people of the internet. My name is Patchy, and today I wanted to talk to you about Flash games. You see, Flash games were my first introduction to gaming, and from as young as 6 or 7, I can remember getting home from school and racing upstairs to beat my brother to have the first turn on the family computer. My first exposure to Flash games was through a site called miniclip.com. I surprisingly never discovered Newgrounds, but maybe that was for the best at that age. The thing is, I noticed that all the best games I played always had the same little intro logo sequence. One day, I actually plucked up the courage to type nitrom.com into the URL bar, although I could have just clicked on it, I wasn't a very smart kid, and was greeted by a library of, to this day, some of the best games I have ever played. From classics like Feed Me and Skywire to Rubble Trouble and Test Subject Blue, these games genuinely played a part in who I am today. Then, gradually, I moved on. For Christmas of 2008, my parents bought me and my brother a Wii, and from that moment on, I was a full-on Nintendo kid. And those great Flash games became just memories. I'd revisit the site out of a sense of nostalgia every once in a blue moon, but I never got to re-experience those games the same way I did as a kid. Enter 2019. Adobe announced that it would be killing Flash due to it being replaced by newer technologies and also its notorious security issues when used on the web. Almost immediately, a project was set up in order to save all the Flash games that would otherwise be lost. And last year, at the height of the pandemic, I found the channel of one Nick Robinson, who talked in a video about a Flash game that really made his childhood. This is how I found out about the project, Blue Maxima's Flashpoint. Having stored away the idea for later, I decided to download and try out the project myself, only to find that Nitro had asked for their games to be completely removed from the archive on copyright grounds, which, by the way, is completely fair enough. I'm not mad at Nitro for that. This meant I'd have to read Flashpoint's curation tutorial and download the games from the official source myself if I ever wanted to play them again. I started off with one of my favorites from when I was a kid, Dark Valentine. This steampunk platformer has this unique chain gun mechanic that allows you to create bridges with your chains, as well as hold moving platforms, and also shoot this awesome bouncing projectile at enemies. I quickly found out that the curation process wasn't as easy as downloading the base SWF file though, because none of the levels would actually load. Instead, I had to look at the Flashpoint network logs to see the name of each individual file it was trying to download whenever you tried to enter a level. This is when I made the groundbreaking discovery that led to this video. Peeking inside these level files, I found human-readable, easily editable XML containing tile maps that represented the level structure, the enemy placements, and even the sign data. I was hyped when I found this out. Not only would I be able to re-experience this game from when I was a kid, but I might even be able to create my own custom levels and breathe a new life into it. I had all kinds of ideas come to mind for what I might be able to do with this, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about what makes these files interesting. The first part of the file is kind of obvious and maybe a little bit boring, but don't worry, I'll speed run through this part. Here we have the width and height of the level in tile units. Don't worry, I'll get to that later. As well as the starting position X and Y coordinates. There's also this outside true or false value, which determines whether the outside or the inside background is used. Jumping to the end of the file, we find the sign data. This is the text that's applied to these holographic signpost communication things that are found throughout the game. These give a bunch of hints and tips, as well as tell most of the game's story. Each bit of sign data has an N value, which basically points to the sign in the level that the text should be applied to. They also have a layer, which traditionally is always 1 throughout the vanilla game, and also have, of course, the text. Now, the text actually doesn't show up unless there's a sign tile in that spot. Trust me, I tried. I messed around with it for ages. Now we're at the juicy part that makes up the majority of this level file, the tile map itself. Each number in this list is placed in a grid according to the width and height in the first part of the file. If the level is 12 tiles wide, the first 12 tiles are placed on the top row, the next 12 in the second, and so on. For simplicity, let's imagine a level is 5 by 5. The grid is filled out like this, with each number corresponding to a specific tile. A tile is a 64 by 64 pixel image that may have other associated behavior. Let's take this tile for example. Number 19. This is a floor block, which is armor, which means chains from the gun don't stick to it. It also has collision, so it can be walked on top of and act as a wall. Although collision only applies if the tiles are on the first layer. Oh yeah, now might be a good time to mention there are layers to this grid too. Each level in the vanilla game has 3 layers, but I found out that you can just add more and the game doesn't care. It just goes, okay, cool, I guess I have more than 3 layers now. Layers are mostly used for decoration, like with these pipes, but they could also be used to embed hazards in other tiles or stick things to moving platforms on the layer below. Now, I can hear you all reaching to skip the video at this point. I'm sure I've already bored you enough talking about file structures and tile maps. So let's stop poking around inside level files and get to something more juicy. So of course I opened my trusty code editor, and wait. I know code is boring on video. So instead, I've made this very satisfying time lapse, and I'm gonna talk vaguely about how the project works, just to keep it interesting. Good evening, all you wonderful people of the internet. Futurespatcher here in the middle of editing this video, and it's my job to tell you about how I built this snazzy level editor of mine. To build this project, I decided to use Electron. Electron is a framework that allows you to use Node.js and web technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build desktop applications for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Although this level designer only works on Windows for now, but that's actually fine because Flashpoint is only officially available for Windows anyway. The program consists of a front end, which I built using Vue.js and Bulmer to make a nice user interface, while the back end does all the heavy lifting, like extracting the assets from the game, reading and writing their level XMLs, and exporting your custom levels to Flashpoint so you can play them. The time-lapse you're currently watching is about 45 hours of programming work squashed into about 2.5 minutes, and that doesn't include the research, debugging, and styling, which I didn't record. There's a total of 352 tiles of the game, and I had to manually test, make notes, and then add a reference to in the code. Just typing out the list of tiles as code, even though I already had the notes, took over 3 hours, and it was the most painful, mind-numbing chunk of code I think I've ever had to write. Also, getting an exe to build properly was a pain. I spent 4 days messing with configuration files before I finally got an exe that worked. Overall though, even though there were some painful issues to work through, it was 100% worth it. This program is definitely the biggest solo project I've ever worked on, and it was all because of you wonderful people watching that I actually had the motivation to finish it. So thank you so much to all of you, and I really hope you enjoy using it to create and share, or just play custom levels for this awesome game. I think the most satisfying part for me building this project was definitely getting the canvas where you actually build the levels to work. It was quite challenging, but it was the part where I could actually see real progress happening the most. Starting off with getting mouse clicks to place tiles in the right places, to getting layers to work and the background to show correctly, and then getting resizing of the whole level to work, and finally being able to actually save the blocks I just placed down as an XML and open it with Flashpoint and just see everything I built working in game. That was really cool to me. The other super satisfying part was getting level exporting and importing to work. I thought it was going to be this whole difficult thing, but within just a few hours of starting, I had it able to export directly to Flashpoint and also export and import like project files so that you can share them, and just imagining what other people will do with this thing that I built. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see something like that all come together. See, that wasn't so bad, was it? Well, anyway, here it is. This is Dirk Valentine Level Creator. DVLC for short. Original name, I know. I came up with it myself. When you first boot it up, you'll be asked to download Flashpoint Core, the curator's version of Flashpoint, as well as SWF Tools, which is a program needed to extract the assets from the downloaded game files. This is another important point. I've done absolutely everything to try and prevent piracy, at least within the scope of the program. All assets are downloaded directly from Nitrom's site when you first run the program, the same way a browser would if you were just playing the game. And even when you export your levels to Flashpoint, the game file isn't copied to Flashpoint's folder, but a special link is made to the original game file that the program downloaded. To share levels, you can also export a special dvpack file, which is a custom zip type file, which also contains the XMLs you created and some metadata like the creator's name. Again, there's absolutely no copyrighted assets being distributed here. We do this legit or not at all, you get me? Anyway, you can actually download this program and use it yourself. There's a download link in the description. It's super easy, and there's discussion and level sharing channels now active in my Discord server. So join there too if you want to share levels with people. I've even created this suite of test levels so you can download them and mess around with them yourself, just to make it even easier for you guys to get started. I really want to make a community out of this, so let's see how many people we can get sharing their levels, and maybe we'll show Nitro we care enough for them to one day release a sequel or something. I mean, they are making games for Steam and even the Switch now. I can dream. If you made it this far in the video, then you probably enjoyed it. So why not do all that usual YouTube stuff and click those lovely buttons down below. If you want to give me a slice of algorithm pie, then comment on this video. And of course, the dislike button is completely dead now, so leaving your feedback is more important than ever. And if you wanted to see some not too hot, not too cold, but just right takes, then follow me on Twitter. I've been posting there a lot recently. @Spadgies online. The link is in the description. That's gonna be all for now, guys. I will hopefully see you in the Discord. If not, I will see you in the next one. And as always, Stay hyped.